Ron, we have a case study to start out with today. A very interesting case study. And I would like your thoughts on this. To me, the biggest difference in this game, I think the Steelers do have a better defense, obviously depending on who's in and how long they last.
You saw T.J. Watt practice yesterday. Full.
Which is good. I'm
That's
still
a good
extremely leery of that type of injury. But yes, that's the best news you could have for sure. But I think offensively, there's a huge, huge difference at the most important position. And I would go further as to say, look at the Packers' offensive line.
It's not very good.
Well,
a lot better than the Steelers.
It's built
but
similarly.
Not very good.
Here's the thing. They had a third string left tackle against the Niners. Their third string guy, a man named Josh Nijman, I believe.
There's a name for you.
That was left tackle. Their other guard was John Runyon, making his first career start, a 6th-round pick last year. Their other guard, Royce Newman, a rookie 4th-round pick. And then they have a right tackle, Billy Turner, 4 years. They signed for $28 million. So they basically had a completely makeshift offensive line with 2 rookies, 2 guys, I believe, making their first starts, and then a veteran in Newman.
Their 2 best left tackles are out.
That's right. So that's why the third string guy played.
Left tackle. Yep.
So I have 2 questions. One, to this. I asked you this earlier in the week, and I wasn't thinking clearly. If you'd go back on the Najee Harris pick, who would you take? Or, in this case, the Freiermuth pick at number, what was Freiermuth? 52, 55, something like that.
That one definitely I would think over. I wrote that at the time that they didn't need Freiermuth as much as they needed an offensive line.
Well, guess who the best rookie offensive lineman in the league graded out so far is? It's the Packers center from Ohio State.
Where was he picked?
Josh Myers. He was picked 7 picks after Freiermuth at number 62.
Man,
he's 6'5". He's a giant. He started his last 21 games at Ohio State, and the headlines this week are the Packers thrilled with rookie center Josh Myers.
Yeah, they gambled. I mean, and Freiermuth may be a star. I mean, he may be the best thing since Heath Miller. I was thinking about this last night. In fact, I wrote about Najee Harris for my column in the Post-Gazette Sunday. I think he has a chance to be a fabulous player. I mean, in 3 games, his numbers are ridiculously low, but he's shown me a whole lot. I'm okay with that pick, but I wrote at the time, Freiermuth just seemed like a luxury for them. They didn't really need a tight end as much as they needed an offensive lineman. And, I mean, I wouldn't have known that the Ohio State center was the guy to go for. The top 4 tackles went before they picked Najee. And, you want to get a tackle if you're going to go first round, I think. But I thought
don't we agree that center is as or more important than tackle?
But they don't get paid as much for a reason. I think the tackles get more, especially the blindside tackle. But Freiermuth and he's great. He may be great. He seemed like a luxury to me.
Well, he seemed like a great pick to me, but now that I didn't know that Kendrick Green was going to turn out, and I know it's only 3 games in, but this is turning into a
disaster with the offensive line.
It is.
No other word to describe it.
So the Packers have a similar pedigree on their offensive line right now. They got 2 rookies, journeymen, and a guy who's been around for a bit. Okay, a guy they actually signed. So let me ask you a question. They have 75 points in their last 2 games. The Niners have a pretty good defense. They smoked them for 30. Why are they able to flourish with that kind of line when the Steelers are in the position they're in? Why is that? What would your answer be?
Well, I mean, Rodgers has played better than Ben to start with. I think the Adams, the receiver, has been better than any of the Steelers' receivers. And, the Packers they did it in 2 of the 3 games. They got beat 38-3 by the Saints. So, they're not perfect either. But, I mean, Rodgers clearly is playing better than Ben is, getting, more accurate with the ball and can move a little bit.
Yeah, that would be it for me, is they have a quarterback who's who has catapulted way past Ben.
He was the MVP of the league last year.
Yeah. Plus, they have a scheme with Guy Lafleur, our friend Guy Lafleur out there that a lot of people talked about last week. Plus, they have a line coach that a lot of people have been giving accolades to, and that's Adam Stenavich. They have a program there, it would seem, offensively, Ron, and a quarterback that the Steelers don't have. But I think my point in bringing all this up is I don't know that the offensive line is an excuse for everything else.
No, it's certainly not the only problem. They got many, many problems, but I still think it all starts with the offensive line. And I don't care, what you presented to me about the Packers. Their line has played better, from what I've heard, than the Steelers have.
So does it go back to their GM compared to Colbert? Did they do a better job in an emergency situation?
You mentioned the offensive line coach. Maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah. What are the Steelers doing, honestly? I mean, they promoted an offensive line coach who had never been a line coach. They promoted a coordinator who had never been a coordinator.
In the NFL.
They brought back a quarterback who can't move and matched him with a coordinator's playbook that needs a quarterback to move. It's just everything just dawned on me this morning.
And they gambled on the line that Chooks would be okay at left tackle, that he isn't. They gambled that Zach Banner would be healthy, and so far he isn't. And again, I'm still not sure about where the DeCastro thing fit in.
Yeah.
Whether they knew he was hurt or didn't know he was hurt until at the very end. So, I mean, that's a reflection on Colbert and Tomlin, no question.
And did they make a gigantic mistake by taking Freiermuth instead of Josh Myers, the highest graded rookie offensive lineman in the league, 6'5" center, pedigree out of Ohio State? And the other thing about Kendrick Green, Ron, is he was a guard for most of his college career. Not only is he a third-round pick with questionable pedigree, questionable tangibles, if you will, he also played guard for a lot of his college career.
And now he's playing a different position.
I'll put center up there. I think it's the most important position.
You can argue.
And whenever the Steelers have been good, they won it 1 year with Justin Hartwig, and I would say that Ben's magic worked around having a horrible offensive line that year. They also had a pretty good defense that year. But for the most part, when the Steelers have been good throughout their history, they've got a guy right in the middle who's really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, from Ray Mansfield to Mike Webster to Dermontti Dawson to Marquise, yeah, you're right.
They should have taken this kid, it looks like, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't he be the one that jumps out this week?
I don't know if he would have been the one at the time. I don't follow the college game linemen that closely, but I didn't like the Freiermuth pick. I was one of the few who didn't like it. Not because he's a bad player. He may end up being great, because I thought they needed an offensive lineman more. I would have been preferred to have a lineman instead of Najee, but the 4 tackles went ahead of him. And, I have no problem with that pick after watching Najee now. But the Freiermuth one, you can argue.
Especially with this guy this week right in the middle of that line. It's interesting. It's just interesting. And Rodgers got rid of the ball just as fast as Ben, by the way, last week. 2.5 seconds. The difference is he can still move around. And
now, they haven't been able to run the ball very well either.
Yeah.
And mostly it's a Rodgers-Adams show. I mean, look at the stats. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. Now, what, can they take away Adams and make him beat him with somebody else? I would certainly hope they try. But clearly, if TJ can play, that makes a huge factor.
No doubt. I mean, Mr. Dadgummit said yesterday that he doesn't like to have one guy chasing people around. Now, the first game, Ron, Aaron Jones was held to 9 yards on 5 carries. But since then, he's had games of 82 and 67. So it's not like Steeler level problems.
No, but he scored 4 touchdowns in that second game too. But I think 3 were catching the ball.
Yeah, but they have some semblance of a running game.
And the Steelers don't.
They have no semblance
they have none,
of a running game.
None.
Here's what I think going into this game that I wonder, and that I think this game may tell us. I think Steeler Nation and the entire football world are looking to see if Ben is done and if the Steelers are done and if this is going to unravel into a complete disaster, a disintegration, or if the Steelers, as they have under Mike Tomlin, are going to rally in a difficult circumstance and hang around 500 this season and and still be in the thick of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
there's that thought, Ron, that the whole world will get to see Sunday at 4 this completely fall apart.
Absolutely. They're 6.5. What is it? 6.5 point underdog in this game. I mean, on the road, Green Bay coming off a great win against San Francisco. The Steelers looking like crap against Cincinnati. Yeah, there's a definite thought that it could all fall apart this weekend.
But you don't think it will?
I do not. But I'm not saying I'm right either.
What are your thoughts on the game? Why do you think it won't fall apart?
I just think Ben's going to play better. I like to think that Watt will play and the defense will be better. Deontay Johnson looks like he's going to play. But now Claypool was added to the injury list yesterday. I don't know where this came from. This was a hamstring, another one of those soft tissue injuries. Highsmith was limited. TJ's obviously the key guy. And practicing full on Thursday is pretty optimistic for me. Because, they could have waited, had him do limited stuff yesterday, maybe practice today. We'll see what it comes out today. He practiced limited last week, and then they scratched him on Saturday. So.
Which guy?
TJ.
Yeah, TJ.
So no guarantee, but I'm pretty optimistic when I see that he full practice yesterday, that he's going to be able to go on Sunday.
Feels like they're on the ropes here. Feels like the whole Ben era is on the ropes. It feels like a boxing match to me.
The official's over. I'm counting them out.
Well, they're on the ropes
but they
anyway.
Can get back up.
They're not down, but they're on the ropes.
Well, they're pretty close to being down.
And if they get blown out and embarrassed this week, man. And I think I think that's the compelling part for a lot of people about this game around the country is what's up with the Steelers and Ben. Is this all falling apart, and what's going to happen to them this weekend? And you think Ben still has a couple of magical performances left, a couple bullets in the chamber?
I do think he can play better. I don't know if it's going to be well enough when he can't run the ball and behind that offensive
I mean, I don't know
line.
that that's still an excuse for me. You just said Green Bay has been great at running the ball. Kansas City sometimes doesn't run. Tampa Bay doesn't
Aaron
run.
Rodgers at this point.
Well, right. That's the point.
But, I mean, that doesn't mean he can't have a few good games left.
He could.
It's going to be hard with the supporting cast. Maybe Rodgers can rise up above his a little bit. Adams is a much better receiver than anybody the Steelers have. I mean, he could be the best in the league,
could be,
right?
Yeah.
And that's a big,
Rodgers could be the best player in the whole
and
league.
he was last year, right? He was MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they're going to play a good game. I don't know if they're going to win. I just think only if TJ plays and the defense is semi what it is. Highsmith would certainly help. I don't know what his status is going to be.
412-928-9370, 928-9370. Your feeling going into this game. It feels like a different kind of game than maybe I've ever seen under Mike Tomlin, given the circumstances, given the fact that Ben appears. I think if you took a vote of people who watch the league and are in the league and you asked them, is this guy shot, yes or no? I would say most people would vote yes to that. Would you agree?
I think they already have from some of the stories I've read.
Do they have the wherewithal to bounce back and make this a good competitive game and win?